And for 2022 so far, how would you say Nigeria's judicial system has performed?
Well, the judiciary has performed, for me, within the boundaries of welfare, independence, as is being touted. They've performed well. I know why I say so, because so much about the welfare of judges is still an issue. Remember when what led to the resignation of the Chief Justice of Nigeria about June this year? Within that period, the other justices of the Supreme Court wrote a memo which was leaked, wherein they cited so many reasons why they could not perform well.
They actually protested.
That was more like a protest. And of course it leaked to the press. So many people interpreted it to be so many things. But the truth is, for the entire justices of the Supreme Court of Nigeria to have come to that point, that will give you an insight into what other justices and judges of the Court of Appeal, of the High Court, and even of the Magistrate Court go through every day in coming up with decisions that we see. And when you're dealing with, when you're talking of corruption, thank God Mr. Adeniro is here, we're going to also be looking at, the Christians say, have a prayer, do not lead me into temptation. Now, that prayer, if you situate it in the practical aspect of it, you won't be telling a person to wake up. One of the courts I attended recently, the judicial officer there complained of how she had to write her judgment and type it herself. Of course, that is not a high court judge, but that also is it that, like the magistrate court, that's where we have the bulk of the cases that come to any wrong of the courts in Nigeria. If an officer of that level could mention this to you, then that will let you know. The high court judges have their complaints. Their dockets are overbloated. The high court judge is handling almost 2,000 cases in Lagos. Lagos, I believe, needs a special attention. But you have the same thing all over the federation. You get to the Court of Appeal, you have the same situation. And when you look at when you now want to assess them in 2022, you must assess them within that parameter of what you have given them. Recently, we heard that the president has approved increase in salaries of judges. We heard that from the AG of the Federation while speaking at Port Harcourt, the handover of the law school campus to the Council of Legal Education. The implementation, they're working out, the breakdown, we're still waiting to see it. Okay? So all these issues have to be put in perspective while assessing them. Towards the end of the year, like we said at the last time I came here, 3 courts within a space of about 6 weeks gave orders citing known government appointees for contempt of court. In fact, convicting them. Yeah. The first was that of the EFCC chairman. The second was that of the IG of police. These 2 were in Abuja. And the third was the Niger State High Court sitting in Mina, that now the chief of army staff and the head of the TRADOC, Training and Doctrine Command of the Nigerian Army. Of course, as of now, that of the EFCC chairman has been reversed, overturned. The same thing with that of the IG. But that of the army chief, nothing has been done about it. And nothing has also come forth from the Army High Command saying, we got the judgment and this is the reason. That, of course, is not for today. But these are good tidings for us for the judiciary. I mean, in the year 2022, believing that which we call independence of the judiciary, true independence, freedom from every kind of teleguiding, every kind of intimidation, and then financial independence will come to be as we move on. Then the judge of a court can say, I don't know you, just as the lady of justice is depicted with
blindfold,
the right hand, the balance, and the left, and the blindfold. Not knowing who the sword will land on, depending on the way the scale takes. We believe that that day will surely come. So I want to commend the judiciary within the bounds, like I said, of what they were given to work.
Yes, because the chief of, pardon me, that is the Chief Justice of Nigeria, he mentioned that Nigeria's judiciary is like the busiest in the whole world. And this is funny because country in the world. But
Of
we
course.
have Nigeria's judiciary being the busiest so far. And I don't know, maybe one of the things we would say is causing this shortage of judges to man the court, and then like you said earlier, there are some judges who have so much on their table. Could you say that perhaps this is the reason why we have delayed justice? Because whenever any case is taken to court, it always generates this sort of annoyance in people, because you know that that case might be there for 2 years, 3 years, and still no conclusion.
Yes, and that could result to self-help. The nation that is faced with self-help as a result of delay in justice dispensation is going downhill. But that, I believe, shall not be our portion. Now, you're looking at justice dispensation. Number one, what alternative dispute resolution mechanisms do we have in Nigeria? This is something that the government has to really work out. We have in Lagos, for example, the Citizen Mediation Center. I don't know how other states are faring, where people can go with some of their issues. They have it in, I believe, all local governments in Lagos. Table these issues, and this panel of men and women look at it. We are talking about cases that should not go to the courts. Now, how can this be replicated all over Nigeria? Two, we have the small claims court in Lagos. These are courts that handle civil cases not exceeding 5 million naira claim. And they are, from the practice direction issued by the chief judge, they should conclude within, I think, 30 days. A lot is going on there. But how much is being done about this in other states? Okay, then you now come to the magistrate courts, to the high courts. When you get to the high courts, because we don't have a strong ADR mechanism. ADR is alternative dispute resolution. If these things are further given vent to, we see a lot of cases reduced. That's one. That doesn't mean that cases won't come to the courts. And then the right cases that should come to the courts, will now have to appoint more judges to handle them. And then don't forget one thing. The constitution amendment procedure, which took quite some money and some time, has not ended. It has not been brought to a final conclusion. Part of what was proposed was that some group of cases, some level of cases should not get to our Supreme Courts from the Court of Appeal. In the United States, for example, not all cases terminate at the United States Supreme Courts. We have the state Supreme Courts. We have the state Court of Appeals. Right? Our constitutional amendment can help in this, whereby people have to know that, yes, once my case gets to this point, it terminates. Well, here we also want to make the Supreme Court to speak. And if every case should get to the Supreme Court, no wonder you see cases that have stayed for 25 years, traveling from the magistrate court up to there. We have dates for 2024 now, as we speak, in the Supreme Court. We have gradually beginning to have 2025, civil cases especially. Okay? So when you consider all of these things, you will see that indeed our judiciary, our courts are the most, busy, the busiest, as you said.
And this is quite sad, because when you talk about alternative ways of resolving disputes, it brings to mind what happened in Rwanda during the time that they had so much crisis, genocide and all that. One of the things that they did, they handled millions of cases in just a year or in few years, and this is the highest that has ever been recorded in the world. And the secret to this was they used the traditional means of settling disputes. Do you feel like we could actually have something like that too in Nigeria? Maybe how they settled disputes many years back, maybe hundreds of years back, a community-based justice, the community-based conflict resolution.
Yes. The forerunner to what we call the modern ADR is actually our community-based justice dispensation models. We have that at village elders, we have community elders, we have people who sat at different levels to dispense justice. We are not saying we should reinvent the wheel, so to say, going back to the villages, but we could still, in the modern time, give legal backing, that's the point, legal backing to these models to be able to meet with current realities of commerce, of technology, and other areas of the economy. Because the truth is that for you to work, you have to bring men who are versed in those areas. Then you have to give them a legal backing, okay, to be able to preside over these issues, and for their decisions to be accepted by the parties in a way that, you know, it makes for justice, true justice. Globally, ADR, you don't expect, for example, you have the Lagos Center of Arbitration, Lagos Court of Arbitration in Lekki. If you look at the volume of cases they handle, especially in commercial and contract issues, so many businesses that are coming into Nigeria. For someone who is going to invest in Nigeria, okay, the what you call the foreign direct investment, one of the things these investors will ask you is, how do commercial disputes get resolved? They could spend money sending people to understudy the country's judicial system for 2 years before they commit. And this period, or even more, they will have got their facts. See how long it takes to settle commercial disputes. Are the judicial officers prone to being manipulated? Is my investment going to be secure? This apart from the government aspect of policy, somersault, or policy stability. They will check that, but they will also look at issues of commercial disputes. And these men and women, it's a global trend. They will rather go for ADR, arbitration,
Yes.
conciliation, than go to the courts. Okay, so we need to show up these aspects, not just for those FDIs, like I said, at the grassroots. So many of the cases that get to our courts could be dealt with.
Now let us inform Mr. Adeniran, because I'm about to come to you to like, from your own point of view, how would you rate Nigeria's justice system?
Thank you very much. First and foremost, we have to look at the justice system in Nigeria as still evolving, and we are getting more and more independent. And the judges and other judicial officers are becoming more courageous. I mean, given level playing field, a kind of a fertile field to operate. I think so far it's been so good that the present administration has not intervened so much in the judicial system, and that is why many of his own party members, even elected members, who are being reversed, and they look the other way as if nothing has happened. And you know also that a couple of former governors that have been in court for more than 15 years were convicted during this administration. I believe that the administration has not been intervening. Like he said, the funding of the judicial system should come from first-line charge so that nobody will want to teleguide it. And one of the other arguments is that the Minister of Justice and Attorney General of Federation should not be combined. Okay, so that the minister can be a politician, you know, defending his own people in the same political party. But the Attorney General of the Federation should be the #1 public defender of the citizenry. Then when you also look at the policies, talked about the policy stability or policy somersault, that is the reason why it is easy for people to want to go to court on everything. Because if there had been regulations on things that, okay, don't violate this, if you violate it, this is the outcome, and that is implemented directly. So every judicial decision is based on evidence available and witnesses, you know, that are ready to come to courts to justify, I mean, to kind of give credence to what has been presented. Then we are going to move faster. Then when you look at the new Administrative of Criminal Justice guidelines or whatever, acts, okay, that makes it difficult. I mean, the only thing we have not done, and that is the duty of MBA and the body of benchers, is to discipline our judicial officers when they err. Because sometimes they know that the case should have terminated even at the level of magistrate court or even customary court. Okay, they deliberately leave a gap, okay, to enable them to exploit the litigants, so that they will go round and round and round until somebody is frustrated. Maybe the evidence is obliterated, or the witness is subdued or frustrated out of it. These are the reasons. But if judicial officers had begun to lose their licenses when they don't follow the ethical, procedure of their profession, then they will think twice. Remember, there was an Attorney General of the Federation that lost his license to practice. I'm talking about Michael Aduaka. He actually lost it, and his censorship, I believe, was withdrawn and all of that. So if discipline like that is it's being imposed on professionals that are mismanaging things, not only in the judiciary, all the professionals, those customs and excise, what do they call them? Import and export people, what do you call them now?
Clearing and forwarding.
Clearing and forwarding people. They also circumvent a lot of conditions and practices. Then the regulatory agencies themselves should be up about and doing, to the extent that nobody will have the opportunity of being bribed. And that will push us to go into application of modern technology. Once that is applied and you have evidence that can be tendered in court, then it will be easy to adjudicate in the matters. And no judge or no lawyer will create any loophole through which you can circumvent the court of justice. Once that is done, I think we are on our way to the Eldorado. But then, if there's no continuity in government, in policy implementation from one government to the other, for example, if another party takes over from the present administration and they just rearrange everything, they just want to reinvent the wheel and all that, you start all over again, forgetting that governance is a continuum. So basically, the Nigerian judicial system is evolving well, and I think a solid platform is being established for it. I only believe that we continue to grow it in a way that it will bloom in a way that will meet international standards. But then there's no country that has actually done away with judicial corruption. It's always been there.
I was just about to mention that one of the issues we have in Nigeria is despite the fact that everyone knows there is law and you have to follow the law, but it's as if there is this unknown rule for rich people that even if you are convicted and then you are sentenced to serve time, as long as you have money, then
it is the lawyers. I'm sorry to cut you. It is the lawyers themselves that starts I'm sorry to say you are here. When you go to fight the processes in courts, okay, because maybe you are in a hurry or you want to have more copies than other, you have to tip, the filing officers and all of that. I have been there and I saw it done. In fact, if you don't do it, they may keep, all the papers that you brought to court aside. And they will do it and behave as if nothing has happened. If you want to collect CTC, certified true copy of anything, you still have to bribe or maybe cajole somebody and all of that. If the thing has been systematized in a way that nobody can circumvent it, I want a CTC, it is already somewhere where it will be authentic. It's for you, even for somebody in court to stamp a document, he will be looking forward to you to getting something before he does the stamping. Stamping, nothing belongs to the person, but just want to exploit that situation. So this is what is making our judicial system to be porous and easy to manipulate. So the NBA have to strengthen its own structures. Okay, then I mentioned the body of benchers too. Okay, they have to protect the profession. If they don't protect it, it's supposed to be a noble profession. But then the way things are going, a lot of shakabula lawyers are coming into the practice. They are coming.
That should be like
if you look at the trend of things, there are some. It's like there are some lawyers that are in the wings.
Is it?
To protect those who value.
You know one thing.
Yes.
We're operating in a system.
Yes.
The Nigerian system now. Someone said, how could the police be different? How could you find saints in the police when you don't find saints in government? It's a holistic thing. The judiciary is not left. Well, judiciary is not just the judges. If we look at judiciary in that sense, we have the court staff, workers in courts. Then we have the judicial officers. Then you talk of law, or legal profession. You now have the judiciary. You now have the private lawyers and the government lawyers. And that's where Mr. Debo is referring to, that the Shakabula lawyers, as he called them. The truth is that, you see, when we deal with, when access to justice, I keep saying it, when access to justice comes to a point where the average person accepts the decisions of a court as the right decision, impunity will be highly reduced.